Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So I wanted to talk about learning guitar, and particularly learning guitar, I guess, in the age of the internet. So I think for me this has been inspired a little bit by the amount of students I've had over the years. And I've taught students from, all ability levels, where to be right from beginner, to the advanced level. So I have quite a bit of experience of teaching, teaching all like levels of people. You get all kinds of personality types when it comes to students and learners of the instrument. And I find as well that when there's a certain type of student that comes into a lesson, right, and they're a complete beginner and they've basically never played before, right, and they find to their this kind of leads me on to the first point, where they discover that guitar is actually really hard, right? It is actually really hard to play. Shock horror. I always find it quite funny when I see a student try to play it for the first time, and they realize that just how difficult this thing actually is. And for some reason, guitar has been put in the category of being, I guess, one of the easiest instruments to pick up, I think. And that seems to be like sort of the general thing or the general consensus. I've got a few ideas as to why I think that is. Well, one, it's a very popular instrument, and it's all over, and you see loads of people just picking it up and strumming away. And I think that sort of gives people the false impression that it must be really easy. After all, if everyone's doing it or everyone can do it, then I guess it must be easy. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that sort of raises people's expectations, and they think that when they try it for the first time that it's good. It's just going to be. I don't think they realize sometimes how steep the learning curve can be. So I think that's reason number one where students are really quite shocked and sometimes horrified, just how much work it takes, the coordination between the two hands. Because you got to remember, with guitar, it's just you're getting both your hands to do two very different things to achieve a result. And I never thought of it like that until even a few years ago. I think the reason as well, I think it's definitely the internet. And I think the internet, again, raised people's expectations quite unrealistically as to how much you can basically achieve within like a certain time frame. I'm sure you've seen all those ads on the internet, learn guitar in 30 days or master guitar in 60 days, 90 days, whatever. And I think, if people are exposed to this enough times, people end up believing it. And that's reflected a little bit by what somebody's expectations are when they first pick up the guitar and when they start coming to me for lessons. I think sometimes, and it doesn't work like that. I don't think it ever has worked like that, to be very honest. I think learning guitar is quite, when I think about it, it's quite brutal when if you look at it from one perspective, because you're trying to train your fingers to do really unnatural things. You're trying to train your fingers, it's not just your fingers, it's your muscles as well. You're trying to train them to do things that they're not really naturally inclined to do. Not to mention that you have to toughen up your fingertips as well, and that can be very uncomfortable, sometimes bordering on painful. I've seen students literally, when they're trying to put their fingers on, they're going, like that, and it's like it's sometimes that pain and discomfort is quite persistent. I think people grossly underestimate the instrument, and sometimes the pain and suffering that it can cause. Like I said, I think it's because it's one of those instruments. It's one of those instruments that's very popular. It's seen everywhere. Everyone can carry it. Everyone is. Like I said, everyone seems to be picking it up, so therefore it must be easy. But I think I think guitar, when I really look at it, is deceptively difficult. It is really, really difficult in the sense that it requires almost this athletic prowess to be able to play. And I was just, you sort of have got to you sort of have got to be a bit prepared for the no pain no gain type of mentality sometimes. I'm not saying it isn't fun, because it is. I mean, it's in many, in more ways than one. It's the best. It's the best instrument in the world. But it can cause people a lot of pain and suffering. How do you deal with the early beginning stages? Because they can be the most frustrating, and I know that I found it very frustrating, particularly. I think even within the first year or something, and I even had guidance. I even had guidance because my dad showed me how to play like the basic chords and basic riffs and stuff like that. And even then, I was always complaining about my fingers being sore and everything. So I kind of went through all that as well. And I think you gotta be. I think the truth be told is you really have got to like it, and you've got to be very. I don't even want to use the word. You do have to be passionate about it, but you just have to. You have to be really invested in it to sort of go through that initial hurdle. I think that's where the learning curve gets is really steep, and then it stops being as difficult, because you've went through that sort of acclimatization, that physical sort of that physical adaptation. So I think, with guitar, it's one of those things you have to. Yeah, I think it's, I can sit here and give generic advice, saying, well, you got to set goals, you got to do this, you got to do that, but ultimately you've got to be interested in it. I might try and make like a more concise video for this in the future, but truth be told, you've got to be really excited about it. It's got to interest you, it's got to captivate you. And if it doesn't do really any of those things, if you're just purely forcing yourself to play it, using sheer discipline alone, but you'll probably make some progress with it, no doubt. Of course you will, because with practice you always will. But that's not going to be particularly enjoyable. That's going to be. I think life's a bit too short for that. I think life's a bit too short to do unenjoyable stuff like that. But truth be told is you've just got to have a passion for it, and you've just got to have you've got to have an interest in it. If you don't have an interest in it, the results aren't going to come as quickly, I think, as you want them to. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents, my spiel on guitar playing, and just a few of my thoughts and philosophies and stuff like that. So if you like the video, please give it a like, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video.